takes you down to the bypass.
Right, that's what I thought.
It should have been 350.
Any minute.
We did 350 though.
Well, there was, I mean, but, yeah, well.
Matt, do we have any say?
Hey, John, how do you ever carpet for the Gallatin Library?
No, I don't think so. I'm about to call to order. If you need to add it, we can. All right, I'm going to call this meeting to order. Oh, it's on. Yeah, I turned it on. Okay. Mr. Brown, will you lead us in invocation, please?
Lord, we are so grateful that we can be called your children. In so doing, we are grateful that we have an omniscient Father that looks over us and gives us words to live by. They should be part of our lives. Help us to be the examples that we should be before others and do those things that are right in your sight. Lord, help us to go about this business that we are about to conduct. Help us to look upon this county and do what we can for the welfare and the benefit of this county and those that live here. Help guard ourselves so that we do not enter into any selfish ambitions. Lord, we know that you are good to all, and we are grateful for the blessings that we do have from you. We ask this in your Son's name, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Righty. I'd like to make, before we approve the agenda, I'd like to make a couple changes. Under my report, I'd like to add for an item A, discussion of a new date for a special called session. We ended the committee hearings, and I've learned that a couple people we were trying to keep it so that we're missing no more than one person. I've learned that there are at least two who are going to be out on that date, so I'm going to propose a new date. And then for item B under my report, I'll go ahead and just put it under my, actually, let's do this under D1B. This would be a transfer for EMA, and this was for insurance. Mr. Long, you and I talked about this one on the call. We may need to defer that.
Did he bring us a copy?
I don't know that he did. We may need to immediately defer it. But...
Yeah, we'll pay insurance. He could do it in June.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Would it be possible to add, we currently have a budgeted amount for the upstairs of the Gallatin Library.
Okay.
The carpet in the downstairs where it is probably worse than the upstairs.
Okay.
Could we discuss that?
We can put it under new business item E.
Okay, thank you.
And we'll call this the Gallatin carpet.
Yes.
Okay. Any other proposed changes?
Hey, Chairman Shope, under the minutes, when you get there, I think there's one correction that I seen a second ago.
We'll take care of that one when we get to it. Any other changes, proposed changes to the agenda? Okay. With those changes, entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All righty, motion carries unanimously. Did anybody sign up for the public?
Haven't
All right.
seen anybody yet.
Not Mr. Baker. He missed it.
Did you want to change hers to 10,000?
They can amend that.
We can amend it down. We can just get into it. Sorry, you're right. I
Yeah,
forgot
sorry,
about
yeah.
it. Okay. I entertain a motion to approve the minutes. Oh, wait, go ahead.
If you look under the mayor's report, item 3, it talks about the chiller, item A, there was Roman number 3, item A being approximately 800,000. The approximate should have been 350 there. I just noticed that.
So
And it actually, then that's what you guys approved up to, and then it's came back
Yep.
less at this point.
okay, got it. I recall that.
Motion to approve with corrections.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All righty. Moving on to my report. So, like I said earlier, we originally at the end of 2 days of budget session, we proposed a date for a special called hearing, a special called session, and wanted to give people plenty of chance to read through the budget and come back. Our goal was to have no more than one. We were having a lot of difficulty getting everybody in, And our goal was to have no more than one absent. So I've learned there are going to be two. I would like to, I'll go ahead and make this motion. I'll try not to do that as chair, but I'd like to make a motion to change that date from the 16th to the 23rd, which is the following Tuesday, 1 week different, still at 5:30.
Second.
All righty. Any discussion on that? Any issue? Is everybody here? I know, Mr. Brown, you said you couldn't make it. Is everybody else, can they make that? I think we can. All right. I know Mr. Becker's not here. I'll see if he can. And I think Mr. Mansfield can. Okay. Any further discussion?
What time will that be?
5:30.
5:30.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Mr. Mayor. Oh, we made a change on item A. I meant to say we were going to strike that, and I forgot to
Yeah.
do that. We can.
Okay, well, we really, we've had the update on that, and I think what the plan going forward was allocating 120,000, verifying that number for units. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go through and prioritize as we need and just be ready to react when we have those issues.
So I think we have a plan here. I think, Mr. Long, we can just strike this one going forward. We'll strike it going forward, and if we may resurrect it just to get a report on where things are.
Yeah, I'll provide in my report
That's
where we are
fine.
with it.
But for now, we can strike it. 3B, Mr. Long.
And it's under the mayor's report, but he discussed it
sorry.
last time, but the information wasn't brought, and anytime there's an emergency that doesn't require a bid, it's supposed to be reported to the county commission, and included under the mayor's report is the PO and actual pictures of the sewage break in everybody's packet for them to see that it was an emergency, so.
Sorry, John, I called on him.
Oh, no, that's fine.
Just asking for it to go on to the county commission under as a report, as required by statute.
It basically just shows the work they did,
Got it.
the POs that were issued.
I don't know that we need to vote on that one.
It just needs to be forwarded on.
Yeah, that's right. 3C, Mr. Mayor?
And that's the same thing, it's just some follow-up information on the December, trying to get all of that closed out. And I think,
We got to deal with the register, and that's one we do need to discuss.
yeah, we'll need to discuss an issue with Holly's replacement of some cabinetry.
Let me give you where we're at right now.
Yes,
with it.
please.
Two issues. One, there's a $25,000 deductible. Nobody's determined how the deductible is going to be funded. So is it going to be prorated between the departments, all come out of county buildings, which is going to need the money? Or is the commission willing to cover the deductible? Usually, historically, the department can cover it, but I'm not. County buildings are pretty tight, the register of deeds. I think she's gonna have a hard time finding the prorated share too. So that's the first question. And then the second one, the register of deeds has 3 items that had to be bid. We bid 2 of them, ran into a small bid issue, but we got the relative value of what we think it's gonna be. Until we actually turn in the POs or bills to the insurance company, they will only give us the depreciated value. So what you actually need to do is probably go ahead and put in a budget amendment for the estimated revenues and appropriations, the way we can go ahead and buy the cabinets to claim them on the insurance. Because until we actually replace them, they're only gonna give us depreciated value, which is what they've done at this point.
Okay.
And I can give you the amounts right here, I have them in my, and that was actually why Holly's on the back of the agenda too, is the same discussion.
Okay.
She was in requesting to determine what to do about her cabinets, and I've got the values of them right here. There's 3 items she had. One of them we bid already, and it's the records books. They're $65,300 and approximately $87. There's cabinets we're rebidding. The bid came in $43,508, probably gonna come in about the same again. There was an issue about relocating on the bid, relocation of the old cabinets. I think John said that maintenance can do it now. The original bid required that, but nobody would bid it that way. And the other one's 51,415. What we really need is a resolution with the estimated revenue and appropriations for these 3 amounts to continue on. As I'm saying, there's also in limbo the $25,000 deductible.
Okay, so, go ahead. Mr.
Well,
Mayor.
it's just to let you know, the offices that are affected, we've got the county buildings in general, and then you had the Register of Deeds office, the election commission, and the county clerk. That's where the damage was in each one of those offices. And I don't think those offices have the funding.
Millersville
to,
Library.
What's that?
Millersville Library's trying to. count
Well,
fundraisers.
yeah.
But it's not been approved by the insurance at this point.
So, just to make sure I'm clear here, so are we fronting the money to install these, and then we expect to
Insurance
recoup
pays.
what percentage of it?
County buildings right now, the mayor's already paid that, so we're getting the claims back
Yep.
on those. Same thing with county clerk. It was a destroyed, I think printer cartridges, a bunch of them for election. I believe it's 13,000 maybe, 40,000. Those are already claimed. The only one that's the issue right now is the administrator of elections, cabinets and books. They gave us the depreciated value versus the full value until we actually replace them. So they won't send us the actual money. So what we need is probably a resolution with the revenue and the appropriation where we can go ahead and do a PO and claim those back to the insurance.
You just need to know where it needs to come out of.
Well, we probably need a new revenue and an appropriation because it'll be brand new coming through. The only issue we got there, in all the money that was out there, I think it's like right now, 180 plus some additional from her. There's a $25,000 deductible. We need to determine how the deductible is going to be covered also.
Okay.
Usually it's not this many groups mixed together. So
Yeah.
it's not usually an issue.
But it's
All right.
not 25,000 per office.
The whole
It's the whole thing.
All right, got it.
So I guess I'd entertain a motion for,
Mr. Chairman?
oh, go ahead. Well, let's have a,
Okay.
for that, let's have a motion on the table. I'd like to pull that one out and have a motion for, I don't wanna make it, try not to make my own motions in here, but, to direct you to build an appropriation for us to approve.
Right now, we've received 188,506, and the appropriation you would need, and I can get the total for you. 6 together, and one of them's not completely bid, so it could vary a small amount. That was kind of my
Well, we
issue too.
can put a,
You can go up to,
Right.
yeah, that's right.
Do you have-
You don't have to get the exact number now, I mean.
Does he have, do you have a recommendation as to what fund it ought to come out of?
Well, we just put a revenue and expenditure in the general fund for the same amount. They would offset each other, as long as this office isn't absorbing.
I'll make that motion.
As long as this office isn't absorbing the deductible, and that was the whole
Second.
question.
Yeah, I'll second it.
Okay, and then I know you want to get in queue.
Yeah,
So
I'm sure I'm not the only one who doesn't understand this, but we're self-insured.
I was going to ask that.
How is it that we're paying a deductible to ourselves?
we also, well, go ahead. We also have some insurance out there.
We have reinsurance after a certain dollar limit. After 25,000, we're reinsured.
It's like catastrophic, right?
Right. With the first 25, we're self-insured very well. And then we actually have CAT insurance, catastrophic insurance on those.
Okay, and that's with a private company? Okay.
That's what
That's,
that's,
that's what's with Liberty Mutual.
yes. And we've already received about 100 and, on this particular claim, we've already received $188,500 and about $7. This claim, this additional right, or the total for this right here, and I'll verify, 6310, is at least that much. Because I didn't want to add it up until we determine what's going to happen with the deductible.
So let's look at this separately to kind of clear it up a little bit, David. If we do revenue expenditure equal, we can do that on these items right here, and then separately address where are we going to get the 25,000. A lot of times it comes from the office, but at the end of the budget year, we don't have it within the offices to do. And with county general, with our county building fund, we're running very lean on that one as well. So, that's something that we're gonna
I
have
mean,
to.
at the end of the day, we're going to have to find,
We're gonna have to- I mean, we got
somewhere.
it, but it's
Right.
just where do we take it
Where to put it
from?
from.
Well, I think on the cabinets, right now, if we took the bid that wasn't compliant, it could be a little more or less than that. Is 160,310, what you need is an appropriation probably for about 165 with an offsetting revenue. And then if it's, whichever direction, they'll just offset each other. The only question is, where's the 25 coming from? Because somewhere along the way, you're gonna be 25 short on revenue to expenditures.
We'll find the right bucket for it.
Because we'll be bringing county buildings back in next month. We're getting pretty close on it too.
Any other questions?
And we fully expect that all the expenditures will be 100% covered by the reinsurer?
Post the 25,000.
Talking
Yeah,
to, well, I was talking to the risk manager today. We expect these two. There's some other ones where they're looking at, like the cabinets down in, which is it Millersville, And then some of, like the election commission claimed some cartridges, I think they were like $25,000, but they said some of them were wrapped and still good. So the adjuster's looking at that, I think they're gonna get 13.
Now, our maintenance guys did a bunch of work, didn't they?
Yeah, but all that's separate than this.
Okay.
Those that come up later, and we'll address them.
Okay.
So we don't cloud it.
Thanks.
So I think right now, just to keep this one moving, you really need an appropriation for revenue expenditures just for the cabinets, the book, and plaque cabinets, roller shelving, and what it's called, record books would be about $165,000. That way, as soon as it's approved, we can get POs, and then when they do, they'll send the rest of the revenue.
But we don't need to include the deductible?
Well, if we doing 100%, then you're basically gonna have to deal with the deductible later. So for instance, when you come back and say you do the county
Yeah.
mayors, you could do the revenue minus the 25 and take 25 from fund balance, or
It's gonna be just like you would, just for any old, we're gonna pay,
$165.
they're gonna get it all
We'll come
done,
back
and
to
we're gonna be
it.
$25,000 short. And then we gotta figure out where to come up.
And the only reason I'm bringing this one up tonight is because it's stopping the process. Everybody else.
Yeah,
is
no, I
moving
get it.
forward.
We have a motion on the floor and a second. Is there any further discussion on it?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, passed unanimously. Do we need a, second reading on that one? Because you're drafting it up, but we haven't approved it.
Well, it's the 165 flow through revenue and expenditures, and if it's the flow through, then it wouldn't need a second reading.
Okay, good.
And plus the 165
Got
is
it.
what we're gonna take, because we're gonna bid this second one, is it about a week from now, it should be back?
All
We're
right.
rebidding one of them.
Gotcha. Any other items on 3C, Mr. Mayor? Okay. Mr. Long, your report?
Item 30, which has been a while here, and it's committee approvals. And I think it's more or less just to clarify what items need to go through what committees before they come to the budget committee. Based on your rules, what I put in there, and I emailed it to Chairman Schoaf a while back, based on your current rules, that would probably be the most advantageous, and it's pretty much what you're following right now
Yep.
anyway.
Has anybody, I don't know that I sent this on to everybody. I may have failed to do that. I think I did fail to do it.
It's been in the back in a while, though.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Bad of it.
So anybody motion to approve? Is there a motion on the board? Did you?
What are we approving?
It would be, if you look at page 30, it's kind of rules clarification, so that we've had some, I think part of this is just the new commission kind of changing out, what can go directly to budget, we've had some questions, I know from various departments, what can go directly to budget, what can't, and we're just trying to put some guide rails around that so the departments don't feel like they're kind of hemmed up and they can't do right.
If they need longer to look at it, I could forward this email to everybody during the month and put it back next month.
On mine, I think that we made a discussion last time where we're just going to have anything that has to do with state, county money, that kind of
Right,
thing.
this
Leave all the
is-
federal funding out of it.
Right,
Since it's only county commission info only.
Right, it says
Okay,
all
yeah, that's right.
education. But where it says all education related items, you might just put all educated related items needing approval if you want to
Yeah,
clarify that.
that'd be simple for approval.
Needing
Yeah,
approval.
needing-
Needed approval.
A commission.
Because the other ones are only
Or
for
just
Falcon.
information.
But that's kind of my intent too.
Do we need more time?
I'll make a motion to approve it.
Okay.
I'll second.
All right. Do we need any more discussion on that? I mean, we can read through it. It's pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah, it is.
And we can make it better from there. I just wanted some starting point to,
Yeah, no, it's a good starting point.
all right. And I hope that helps out the departments so that we can,
We'll post it on our website.
yeah.
Are you wanting to create a new resolution out of this?
I don't know that it needs, does it need a resolution?
You guys
Do
can,
you?
I mean, 'cause
I think it's just guidance.
it's just guidance.
That's
It's,
fine,
I don't know that it needs, it's not like we're trying to make like a hard and fast, we can't make it perfect. I don't know that we need a resolution.
Well, I'm not saying you do or don't, I just want to be clear on what to
Yeah,
have
what
in the
you- yeah,
commission
no,
packet.
what we generally do is like, since they made a change tonight, I'll re-forward it to Commissioner Schoaf for that one little change. And as long as he's okay with it, then we'll just take the actual email, we'll post it on our website under committee, pass their rules or something of that
Yep.
nature. That's what we do
It's
with
not like you
everything.
can't kick it back to another committee if you need to.
That's right, that's right.
Matt, if David wants to include as guidance in his motion, I'll agree with the second.
Okay,
Okay, sure.
that way you now know it's not a resolution. All right, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay,
The next two items I have, the first is the Highway Public Works Fund analysis, which shows they're about $1.7 million better than their estimated cash flows. Based on the budget that's right now tentatively in the Budget Committee to go on with the 1/12 fund balance, we won't have to do this next year if that actually gets approved. The reason this is requested / required from the state is their budget last year didn't show a 1/12 fund balance. So that'll alleviate that. And then the other one's just telling the county commissioners the financial statements are available on the website the day of the county commission meeting. And those two items do need to be sent on to the county commission.
I don't think we need any motion on this or any movement. Same thing with financial financial statements. Mr. Long?
Now they just need to go
Yeah,
forward.
yeah, same thing.
They're just docketed.
So we're at transfers now. So I did make just a quick note here. We changed, and I'll speak out of turn, but we changed the order of this because we kept seeing Judge Blanton and Miss Templeton and others waiting here until we had beaten every dead horse dead, and the majority of their stuff is rarely contentious. So I would have actually done it a little bit differently, but Robert's rules doesn't let it happen, so we're kind of cheating a little bit, and I'm putting transfers under the finance director's report here. Is there, because it is a little bit, that should technically go under new business? I think there's arguments either way. I just want to mention that to everybody. That's the rationale for the change. Does anybody here have any issue with it? Okay, because I made that one kind of unilaterally when we were trying to spare some people a little bit of time. There you go. There you go, Judge Howard. All right, Mr. Long, go ahead.
Actually, the first one's just a transfer between major categories for the highway department.
Yep.
That means it will need to go on forward to county commission, but there's, one of them's to pay the radio fees and the other one's just transfers that he needs for
Yep.
operations. And that, you probably want to approve that one separately since it goes to the full commission.
Anybody got a motion?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Item 2A, there's a request to amend it to $10,000 by the register, no longer needs $40,000. The information technology, to explain that, that's $2,811 for payout time for the interim director before he became a director, before he became an exempt employee. And then the sheriff's office, that's to move for food and medical treatment of the inmates from their insurance because of just, they've got higher numbers and inflation.
Yep.
Motion to approve A, B, and C.
Second.
Oh, one
Is that needed
second.
for the
Can you put
10?
that transfer to EMA insurance?
Oh, I did. I missed one. So we can go ahead and do that, but I'll come back.
Which one did?
I missed EMA because I had
Yeah,
added.
added
I
EMA.
thought
added
we were gonna do
EMA,
it
but,
next month since you
well,
get-
I'll defer that to next month anyway, since we're
Yeah,
fine.
we don't know his exact numbers and
We need the numbers for
we'll
it.
pay his insurance anyway for his
Yep.
employees.
So I had moved EMA to,
Old
2B, or
business,
one B.
Old
We're gonna-
finance
we're gonna-
director.
no, it'll move to old business next time.
That's what said that one right there.
Yeah, the EMA.
Him or old business?
Oh, old business, yeah, sorry. Sorry about that, guys. Okay, so we have a motion to group and approve A, B, and C. And we have a second. Any further discussion on this? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okey dokey.
Item number D is just for the various adjustments where we're getting rid of the system and moving it back to the individual libraries. And item E, all the way through, 16, those are for things such as insurance, small changes for people's duties, small amount of transfers for salaries, and small amount for rounding, because there's 2,080 hours a year, so there's a penny will round you $20. So it's a bunch of small stuff.
I'd like to, if somebody could make a motion for D, I'd like to have one question on E.
Oh,
Good.
so moved.
Second.
All right, now this is for D only. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. And I'll entertain a motion for E as well, but I'd like to get in queue afterwards.
Motion for discussion.
All right, we have a motion for discussion.
Second.
All right.
Nothing really.
So it was your motion to group and approve everything under E?
This is for discussion.
For discussion for now, that's fine. So here's the question I had. I kind of looked through these, I don't see anything major here that's an issue. My only question is, will any of these changes will they make changes to people's salaries post what we already discussed?
I don't think so. We'll go back and look, but
That's
some of
what I
these were
want.
caused by that happening last year. In other words, if, after we pulled the budget stuff in January and then you approved the budget in, February, March, April, people have small duty changes and stuff, and sometimes they'll knock you off by a few dollars, but they
I mean, it
generally
didn't look
find
like
that-
anything was more than like a couple hundred. It didn't look, nothing like was jumping out at me, but
There's a few like employee benefits.
sometimes,
and
it
stuff.
adds up, so I just didn't wanna.
But really what spurs most of these is the appropriation resolution, which I think it should stay that way, says that the payroll are the limits of the dollars that can be paid. So we come by and amend every one of them, even if it's $1, if we can, we know. But so most of these are immaterial. If it wasn't for the resolution saying that, we wouldn't adjust all these, but the same thing that, I think that particular language is a very good control unit.
Yeah, I get it.
Because audit the other year kind of went through and.
I get it.
We used to transfer all these little tiny things.
I get it. I mean, yeah, it's stuff like, $43 here and like $130. I mean, none of it is, like I said, hugely material, on an individual level. But, so bottom line, this is not material to what for the salaries which we started with for the upward adjustment.
It will not have a material adjustment on next year.
Okay,
If anything,
that's
it'll
what I
be
needed to
something
hear.
similar to what you're seeing here again.
That's what I needed to hear.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I have a question on page 50, the 406,563.
50.
So that's transferred from dispatcher radio operators.
To overtime.
Into all of these overtime and part-time personnel.
Now, this is one I can tell you exactly. There's two things. ECD or ECC has had issues filling all their positions. So what happens when you don't fill the positions, you do overtime for the others. So that's most of your changes. The other one, a couple of years back, they did just like the other sheriff, EMS, and EMA. They did the ARPA money. Well, because the county only covers 32%, it was decided versus doing the ARPA again, what they would do is tell them to take all their extra money and transfer it into these line items during the year. So that's what they were instructed to do last year, and that's what the committee's done. So yeah, this is a large one, but it's nothing unusual.
Well,
really.
it just struck me that we had 406,563 for radio dispatchers. What happened to our radio
Their
dispatchers?
vacancies, they've never been able to fill them. They've had that issue since this particular department's open.
Really?
And that's why you've got increasing amounts of overtime. Overtime has pay, and that's the related did a bunch of that right there. The other one's to do with the, just like the director, they're paying the hazard pay, except they're paying it locally. They were told to, versus us putting any more ARP in it, last year it was decided for them to pull it between their lines because they had all these vacancies. There was no need to put ARP in if they had all these vacancies already.
Mr. Mayor, do you have any idea if that's an issue about underpayment or?
Well, that's always gonna be an issue over the ECC.
Okay.
I think their last report, they had 11 vacancies, but they have some coming online. So I think the net, I don't know if Christie's here, was the net like 5 right now?
Yes, sir, once the 6 that we gave offers to, it would be approved back on.
And it's consistently 5 to 6 every month.
Wow.
Yeah.
Is it turnover? Is that so 5, 6 in and out every month?
Man, that's gotta be hard.
See,
We're
that's
spending more
actually
money
when you,
training than.
when you see
Yeah,
that level
that's-
of turnover, you do
You gotta
think,
think if you're a dispatcher sitting there and you get a 911 call, you don't know if it's gonna be a cat up a tree or somebody killed. And then when you get off the call, you don't know what happened. So it's a rather stressful job. And I say that probably, unless I'm wrong, Christie, that probably adds a lot to the turnover.
Oh, well, let me suspend the rules real quick.
Oh,
I mean,
sorry, I did that
you
again.
always do this,
I meant
yes.
to do that. You already
So,
told me to, so.
Suspend the rules.
All right. Well,
Motion to chastise.
all in
I
favor?
like the mayor did it first.
All right, go ahead. Go
Yes,
ahead.
it is very stressful. They're taking emergency calls one time, sometimes one after the other with very little downtime. They also work 12-hour shifts, give up a lot of their personal time, and work a lot of mandatory overtime as well, which adds to a lot of the burnout. The actual turnover this year thus far is about 25%, which is actually less than the 50 we've had for the last couple of years.
Okay.
Most of our turnover right now is trainees, because trainees are not being pushed out because they're not able to make it through the training process. We are just making sure that they are able to handle.
Oh,
their
so a lot of the turnover is trainees.
Yes, sir, at this point in time it is. This year so
Okay.
far, we've only had, I believe, 2 people leave voluntarily.
Okay, that's a
that
little
were
different
tenured
then.
employees.
That's a little different. So thank you for that clarification.
Historically, it's been a lot of the existing too, though, hasn't it?
Yes.
So it's changed
So,
some.
but
But
we-
historically, it's been your existing.
ARPA, we
too.
had ARPA, they were part of those that got the bump, right?
They were part of the ARPA bump, and the way it works with them,
That probably helped.
they're a interlocal agreement. So we only
Yep.
pay
Yeah,
32%.
no, I'm tracking it.
So we were taking the county's 32% to cover our share. The cities were taking theirs between the line items. So it was determined because the 32 is such a smaller percent to let them do all of them that way last year, and that was discussion during the budget and during their committee. But you guys weren't here to that discussion, so I guess that's
No,
probably
it's-
what I should have pointed out.
Go ahead.
Yeah, on page 34, I just noticed it. One of the things that we've been hearing from Highway is they need asphalt hot mix. Now, I look down here in the notes, and it says mobile radio and portable radio, user fees not included in current budget. Is it in this budget?
Yes, and he actually
Okay.
owes the county for a year prior to that, so that's something you guys are gonna have to determine. But basically, Miss Harden did not pay last year, that's this year's, my understanding.
Yeah, that's right. I've had a couple calls. We're fighting over this one.
And that's one of the few lines where he has a lot of money, so that's why
Yeah.
that's why he jabbed into that one.
Mr. Chairman, I move the script and approve all section E.
All righty.
I'll second it.
Okay, we'll go ahead and, before we do that, can we have, well,
We'll take care of that when we get back in the rules.
all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and move us back and reinstate the rules since they've been suspended. I don't think I need a motion to do it since the rules were out to begin with. Okay, D3?
D3 is just the transfers between line items. There's several of them because we're toward the end of the year. As you look down, one of them's the actual burst pipe that's being reported to county commission. The larger ones are on the very back, which is just to do with the construction of your justice center / courthouse. There's $600,000, that's the audio video system that the additional money was approved last month.
Yep.
And the JPA, and then actually some transfer station engineering costs because we put it all under construction, so we don't know the amounts. But there's nothing that really just.
The only one that
stands
popped out was the 44.
There's a lot of big ones. but
Well, what's
nothing-
that 22,000 on line 101?
Line 101. Let me find line 101.
I don't see any description at all.
Well, they're all 101. Which line, what are we talking about?
Oh, sorry. Line 450, object number 451, second page, 2/5 of the way down. It's 22,000.
Oh, I see
22,000.
it right there. Let's see who we're looking at.
EMS.
EMS and 451 is they're taking it out of that to move it over into fuel.
Okay.
But 451, I think, let me think what the description is. Didn't really look at it closely because we're moving it all into fuel, which makes sense.
It's all going to fuel.
Right.
I mean.
The left side you're decreasing, your right you're increasing.
All right.
The two big items they had was the fuel, and the other one was expenditures for.
I see what's happening here. Got it. So all of these are going over here to fuel. Got it. Tracking. Okay. Which makes total sense. What's the 55,000 for the new transfer station engineering service?
That's where the bond was done to build a new transfer station at for the convenience center over at the Resource Authority. When we did it, because we don't know how much is the engineering other costs, we just stuck everything under construction. So as they send down the bills, we transfer them each month and then reimburse the Resource Authority for what they paid. And that's part of the engineering for their new transfer station. And the bond was issued last year and it was approved. That's
And then
what
we
did.
talked about the audio visual for the courthouse.
Yes, that's the.
That was, we talked about that. Okay. Go ahead, Mr. Klein.
Page 57, the 40,000 burst water pipe repair, is that?
That's the same one here, it's going to
That's all.
commission.
Yeah, he was just talking about it.
It's the same one that's going to county commission.
Okay.
There's a lot of large items here, but nothing that just really,
Any motions on these?
So moved.
Second.
All right, we have a motion to approve. Any other discussion on these? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okey-dokey. All right, moving on. I think that is your report.
Yes, sir,
Yeah.
that's the end of my report.
All righty, thank you, sir. Okay, so moving on to old business here. So we keep coming back to the uncollected materials receivables. I think what's going to happen here, well, I feel like we should just defer this. Like continue to defer it, right? I mean, there's no change that's going to happen until we get something from
I think
the
it's
state.
closed. I think the state, isn't it closed right now for
The
change?
session's
Session's
closed.
closed.
Nothing's happened, we don't think.
Commissioner Boyd informed me today that there's supposed to be some legislation in the works for next term. So,
So
I think for what that's worth.
That will happen until 2024.
So that's the thing. Do we want to go back and try to take the settlement, or do we want to kick this ball down the floor
No,
until?
we don't need to set a precedent.
See, and on our budget for 23-24, there's nothing in there.
I mean, I agree with you. I just don't want to be
Yeah, I
that.
know.
So I think what we do here is we can strike this until we get back to next fiscal year, next calendar year.
Probably need to discuss it in the 23-24 budget, because right now I have 0 in there because it's unknown.
Yeah,
So if we're
but
gonna
I mean,
make,
that's probably the right assessment for 23,
well, if the
24.
assessment's gonna be, you're gonna, one, take the settlement, or two, litigate, then we may wanna put the lower of the two, the settlement, or we can put the higher of the two if you plan to litigate.
Assessments.
I say we keep it at 0.
Okay.
We keep it at 0, assume nothing for this year, because we're not going to get anything till next year.
That's what I did last year until it's determined what the commission's gonna
And
do.
then we'll get I think, hope it goes our way, and we get a nice fat check at that point for 2 years.
So that was some of them's argument, it should be done on reappraisal year anyway, so put it in the 24 or 25 budget. Actually, yeah.
We gotta add all 5 years together.
Yeah, 24, 25.
I say
We're
we-
billing for the remaining of the 5 years.
I think we keep it at 0.
Keep in mind, by the time it rolls back around this next time, it'll be 3 years.
Yeah, that's
3
right.
out of 5, and some of them's paid.
So-
Um,
Okay,
If I could.
Go
make a
ahead.
statement. So session will end approximately by the end of May of next year.
mhm.
If they don't decide on this, we're gonna have to be making a decision as far as what action's gonna be taken. So I don't think you're gonna wanna plan it down another session.
No, we wouldn't.
So I guess my point is the budget time coincides with the legislation ending for that period, and I say it's a fish or cut bait moment at that time.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, I don't think that changes what we'll do here. We'll defer it, but when should we bring it back up is the question, so we start getting it back on the radar.
I think you should bring it probably back up, when
November,
the next session starts. When's the next session start next year?
January,
January, so you put it probably on your.
November, December.
November, December, that way
No,
you can
let's do November.
get something down to your legislators to make sure.
Let's kick that down to November, and
They
they get
can-
reelected every 2 years. We can start talking to them.
You may want to put it on October, and that way you could even send a resolution urging that you're in favor of taking this up.
I'd say the sooner the better.
Yeah, yeah,
Let your legislators know, put it back in October.
yeah.
10/23.
Everybody start making phone calls. All righty.
Item B.
Item B, yeah, so, go
We don't
ahead.
have the- I don't have the amount right now. Does anybody know the amount for that?
I don't.
We sent an
Ryan, do you
email
know
to
this
Toby
amount?
and hadn't heard anything.
You're closest to
I remember
this.
something about $4,500,
So,
but that's,
Well, here's talking to, I think, Eric and Steve. The highway, because it is a public good, can perform the work. So the cleanest way to do this, if you want to do it, would be do a nonprofit
we give,
donation to Southeast and let them pay the
and let them
highway
pay it out of that, all right. I get that.
But I just don't know the amount.
We can do it up
It's
to,
between 4,000 and 5,000.
we can do it up to, is
So
there,
he's saying 4.
so we can,
Comes to 4 and 5,000.
And I sent Toby an email, but he's probably was busy and hadn't seen it yet. Let me look, see if he sent me something back.
all right, so we have a motion we have a motion and a second.
For what?
To approve
5,000.
5,000, which will be routed to, a gift, a donation to Bethpage, which will then go
Do you want
to
to put,
Mr. Ellis.
put language to appropriate up to him to the amount of this repair? And then that way, whatever it ends up being, you'll, Toby will give him a bill,
Let's
we'll
just
just
keep it at
appropriate.
5. Well, that's, it's your motion.
Well, if you give, my thing is if you give them 5,
I think we keep it up to 5.
Keep it up to
well, here's what
5.
happens, if you give them the 5, then they'll get the 5 in their hands and they only have to pay Toby whatever it costs, so they get to keep it.
Well, he said up to 5.
So what you probably want to put language to
Not to exceed.
appropriate the cost of.
Cost
whatever it
of,
is.
not, yeah.
Of the up, which is up to 5, and then when they get their bill in their hand, we'll
Do
give
you
them a
consider
check.
that clarifying, Mr. Brown?
Okay, any further discussion? We do have one question. Go ahead, Mr. Rogers.
I think since the email is up to, he said it would cost about $5,500
Oh, wow.
to repair the driveway. And we need to make sure that gets done because EMS uses that as a helipad to land there, also to fly out. So if we could make sure that's done, that would be greatly appreciated.
So we can amend it to up to 55.
Are you good with that? Okay.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okey dokey. Item C is, this is discussion of managing opioid settlement funds, and this one is on me. I understand now that, so I was waiting last time to get the resolution approved so that I could go ahead and appoint this department, or not this department, but this committee. I think that's the resolution, right? That's the idea, is that I'm gonna appoint a committee. I have not yet done this, as opposed to having you guys suffer through it. I will send an email to the full commission with those appointments. And I will do that this week.
Do we need to pull the item for next month then?
No, keep it on there, cause I'll look at it and I'll be like, oh crap, I need to do it.
Okay.
So, Hendersonville Library,
That's where they're wanting to pay the funds for it to be open an additional day, but they want the county to pay the other half, and I think, just like I think you guys have pulled it out of the budget, and from my recollection, this was offered the year before, but the consensus was if Hendersonville wanted to do it, if they paid the whole
I'd
cost.
like to defer this because I spoke with Ms. Johnson earlier, and they haven't fully, my understanding is that the board hasn't made a decision on this yet.
But they're also asking you guys for 50%.
Well, I mean, but if the board hasn't made a decision on it, they hadn't asked us for anything yet. So until the board makes a decision, then that was I just spoke with her right before this meeting. So, I'd like to defer this unless there's without objection. Okay, we're gonna defer that one. When the board votes on it, then we'll consider it then. I'm gonna also I'd like to defer item E as well, and again, I'm gonna mea culpa on this. I just have not had a chance to, there's some clarifying language on the accounting for total cost. Just don't wanna make it confusing, and I have not had a chance to work with you to amend that language yet, so I'd like to defer that without objection. And then $48,000 for local capital for the archive roof.
And this is the one I mentioned to Commissioner Klein. My concern is we need some mechanism to determine and document some way that it's not structural. And that's when I was talking to Eric. And was it case law that you've seen, or was it actually an AG opinions where they actually down in Shelby County considered an actual historical window to be structural? So my concern is we need some mechanism.
The damage had occurred and they deemed it to be structural. So basically, the parameters we're working with, if it exceeds 50,000, you've got to have the architect or engineer. But it doesn't matter the price if you think there's a structural issue.
Have we got that determination yet?
Well, I have been up on the roof with our engineer, Marshall Boyd, and I've also been up with the contractor that gave us the price, who, he's not currently a certified structural engineer, but he was. They both say that there are no structural issues with this because all we're going to do is be reducing weight.
I mean, I understand the logic that you're saying here in terms of if you're reducing weight going up, then you shouldn't. But that aside, who's the shot caller
If
of
not,
these kind of
well, I've
things?
got to give a PO, so technically I've got to have a determination of what follows the statute. So what David just said, if Marshall, because I'm not a engineer or architect,
Right.
so if Marshall Boyd is a engineer, so if Marshall feels comfortable signing off that he doesn't think it's structural, then I
Can
will
we get a
take
sign
that.
up, some kind of documentation, signing something?
We usually
somewhere?
just run on the caution side and do the architecture engineer, which I agree with David is much more expensive, but The reason I want documentation is if something does go wrong, my feeling is the first thing argument's
Yeah.
gonna come up with those insurance carriers.
That's right.
Is it structural? We should have had an architect or engineer, and they're gonna try to refuse payment.
So it's-
And we've run into that before, they try to refuse
So it
Can I
payment.
ask the mayor a question?
Go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, I have no idea what these architects and structural engineers are charging. I would think that we could get a structural engineer up there and have him review the drawings up in planning, and we gotta be able to do it for less than 3,000, I would think.
They've got a state schedule that they go by, and so they looked at this. Let's see, let me bring it up.
But I can tell you right now, I'll take Marshall's.
The
sign if he's
problem-
comfortable.
Yeah.
We had one architect look at it, and he looked at it as replacing the roof.
Right.
So he didn't look at it as that individual project. So based on that scope, it was $28,000
For just for his
the
signature.
architect fees. And of course, that was an estimate shooting from the hip. So I don't, he's basing that number on a full replacement of $315,000 to $350,000.
Right.
We did have another leak come up today near the dormers where,
On the front?
where the shingles are. Now, it may have ran from the roof, I don't know, I didn't get up there and try to trace it myself. It's something that we're gonna have to address.
Can we do this?
Marshall's an engineer.
That's what I was about.
If Marshall
Yeah.
feels comfortable signing off, I'll take that and
Well,
we'll run. If
I
not, then we
will.
need to look at it.
I'm
closer.
interested in what you guys have to say if Marshall signs off on that. If
He's
Mr.
an
Woods-
engineer.
He's an engineer. I mean, will that cover us reasonably? Is his sign off?
He used to be.
No, that's the roofer.
That's-
that
that's
who
the-
gave us
oh,
The
Mr.
statute
Boyd-
says
Mr. Boyd.
architect, engineer, it doesn't say structural
Yeah,
engineer.
and
But if he feels
as long as he's
qualified
certified in the state and current, he would satisfy it.
as an
Okay.
architect
But-
or engineer.
If, again, you pay me to be glass half empty here, if something did go south and that was the argument, I can see where he would easily say, look, I don't think you need it, but I'm not signing it.
Well, I mean, that's his choice. I'm not saying we can
Right,
force him
so-
to do
so-
it. I'm just saying,
No,
let's,
I get that, but.
Why don't we just ask him if he's comfortable?
Yeah.
As a licensed architect, licensed engineer.
I don't, no pressure. I mean, do
Right,
what he's
no, I'll
comfortable
meet with
with.
Marshall and.
And
we'll,
we've got you've got the documentation of the analysis.
I got everything.
Without that statute, I would feel comfortable
I
moving
would just
forward. But right
really
now, my
like to
concern's about the insurance company
fix
and what they're
this.
gonna argue.
Drives me crazy to pay these
To
architects.
answer your question more directly, I would argue we met all the requirements.
tracking. I just want to get, I mean, I don't think this requires a motion because we're just going to have a conversation with him, or you are, but like, let's just, this is expeditious and we can do something.
If he's comfortable, I'll take it, stick it in the file, and as soon as you guys approve it, I'll issue a PO.
Okay.
My concern right now is that the insurance carrier arguing that we potentially didn't comply with the statute,
I
because
get
they
it.
don't wanna pay.
I get
If
it.
something goes wrong, because we're gonna require them to have workers' comp on their employees and liability insurance.
I get it.
They fall through the building, they're gonna
I
argue
get
that. First thing, more likely.
Who is the contractor?
Well,
We're gonna have to bid it.
we're gonna have to bid it out.
Oh, okay. I
David
thought
just
you
worked,
said
We're
I thought
talking
you said
about, there's
handle.
two steps here. There was the previous, who I think the mayor was referencing was the previous, that wasn't contractor, but the previous person who was doing the estimation on it. Well, what it would cost for them to make an assessment, and that was for the whole roof. The project has been de-scoped, we have not bid it out, and we haven't been able to bid it out yet because we need to know that we can keep it under the 50,000 and it's not a structural issue. So what we're gonna try to do is talk to him, talk to Mr. Boyd, if he's comfortable to sign off, and then we can move this forward.
David did the first research for us to see if he thinks it's
All
under
right,
50.
got it.
Because we didn't have the staff to go.
So let's, since we're not gonna do anything, I think the only next step there is you, Mr. Isbell, making that contact. Let's move on to new business.
What are we gonna do with, put it back next month?
Yeah, we're gonna, keep it there next month.
And then we can, if it's fine, then we'll run forward next month.
I mean, we're having a special called. Could we put it into that special called?
We could, but I probably don't wanna muddy it up. It's pretty long.
Yeah, that's
right
gonna be
now
big
for-
anyway. That's fine. That's fine. I'm just trying to get the roof fixed.
We'd have to renotice it anyway.
Yeah, that's fine.
I can stick it in there if you want me to, because it's,
No, that's all right. Let's not muddy the waters. It's fine.
Yeah, we got some emails.
We got it, we got plenty going on. Okay, new business, item A, budget amendments for education. Any issues with these?
It's all summer school.
Motion,
Not motion.
any second?
Second.
Motion to approve in a second. Any discussion on these? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All righty. Item B, these are all, flow-through funds. Is there
Item 2 you've already
anything?
handled.
What's that?
You've already handled item 2.
Yeah, that's right.
Item 1A is a flow through. Item 2, you've already handled.
Yep.
And then I'll talk.
I'd entertain a motion on item 1.
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. B3, Mr. Long.
Item A is just the trustees commission. It's based on a percentage of revenues. This year, your revenues came in better. I could have matched it to a revenue, but it's just as easy to show it as unassigned and ask you to appropriate. It's a statutory amount.
So what are we, sorry, and I'm a little behind on
Ba-
this. What are we
basically,
doing here?
You have your trustee's office downstairs. They collect your property taxes and they process all your bank accounts. By statute, they get a percentage of that to run their office, which goes back into our general fund where we pay them. So basically what we're doing here is asking for a $128,000 appropriation, which we're gonna have more revenue on the other side because we gotta pay the trustee because revenues came in better than we anticipated.
So we're
conservative.
you got it. So we were conservative on the revenues. Because we were conservative on the revenues, the commission that we paid them was lower. It came in higher. This is the balance of those two.
Because I budget
Okay,
approximately
tracking.
2% of revenue.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it. So, good news, but still gotta pay them.
And the even better news, that 128 comes back in the revenue of the general fund. That's
Yeah.
where her office operates, so the double comes in.
Oh, you guys tracking that conversation?
Yeah.
What about A? What about A?
Oh, item B is, this is one where we have a retirees medical insurance. Something I asked the committee several years ago and they did, there's nobody new allowed to participate in this, but if you have worked for Sumner County and or the state for a certain number of years, then the county will pay half of your medical insurance as a retiree. This year, it's actually just more expensive than anticipated, and we've increased it next year. We thought it was gonna start going up, but it's even done quicker than we thought.
Motion to approve A and B.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. B4, this is 64,000 for the general fund.
Refunds for the.
This is, debt collection.
They bring in more revenues, there's more debt collection
tracking.
costs and has to run through. Since we're not sure they're gonna make their original budget revenue, I thought it's better just take it to unassigned to be safe.
Yep.
Probably could run.
Need a
through.
motion? Any motions?
So moved.
Yes, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And I might entertain a motion to group and approve on C.
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. All right, item D, this one, I think this one needs some discussion. We've been moving real fast. I hate to do this to us, but I think this one deserves a little bit of discussion. I would like to entertain a motion for discussion.
So move.
Second.
All right.
Jimmy, tell where it came from, because I was asking questions.
Yes.
I had a commissioner call and ask me, and specifically the one was the EMS, the new directors, their salary, and who signs off on it. The EMS signs off on their own salaries, and they're under the mayor, so my feeling is statutory, they can sign off on that, and that's kind of where it lies. The other question was on the appointment, and I think they've discussed with CTAS, and they told them basically interim appointments could stay forever. My only thought process, they said they wanted a policy, and kind of my discussion with them was that their, I guess, place is actually in the budgetary realm. So basically, if they disagree with interim appointments, then they're only, from my view, unless you see something different, the only real ramification would be to adopt a policy where they could control it through budgetary. That would be where the actual interim employees are paid.
So I'm gonna
They
do-
can't actually determine the pay, they can't actually, other than through budgetary, determine the pay or who's there.
I'm gonna give my own cue here, and I just got a level on this. I mean, I get what we're trying to get at here, like what's the difference between an interim, should we be paying somebody interim, should we not? I get it. What we're really talking about is, just gotta be level. We gotta county mayor who's appointed somebody or has appointed an interim, and I think there's been some disagreement over what the right authority is here to do, and so now we're getting in this like, well, they're gonna stay in it as an interim, and now we're gonna get in this cat and mouse game. Well, if they're gonna stay in an interim, then we're gonna, we can make some changes or policy. Can we just vote, like, make a recommendation and get an up or down vote on it? I mean, isn't that how that's supposed to work?
What would we be making it up or down?
No, not in this committee.
Oh.
I mean, just like for an appointment for a position. Like, can't we just like stop beating around the bush? I'm just gonna say that, because I feel like what's happening here is that stuff is coming to this committee that's like, because it's not being solved somewhere else. And I mean, the right solution is we make an appointment and then we vote them up and down. Like, instead of having somebody as an interim person forever. And in any case, if we do want a policy on this, and I'm fine with the policy, but I think the first policy goes to legislative, right? Like, this is the policy that we have on interims.
Yeah.
And then we figure it out here.
Don't we have something out to
Here's,
look for?
this is, and I think there's been discussion with CTAS that basically the interims can sit in limbo. So I was specifically asked if a policy could be adopted in any form. The only way I could see one there, may see something different. By state statute, I pay on a uniform chart of accounts. Uniform chart of accounts has something called director, which would be your interim director. Who determines the director's pay directly is the budget committee / county commission by what they're appropriating in that line item. So the only real policy I see that they really have pretty much in their authority on that one would be if in a certain amount of time the appointments didn't happen, they would basically defund the position. But there may be some other policy, but I don't see another.
And we can do that, but I think that.
Do the budget this coming year, you could defund it.
Yeah, we could, I think that.
That's the only policy I see you could do.
I think that's a policy because it's a policy that goes in legislative.
I don't think you can do a policy forcing an appointment that's already spelled out in statutes. That's kind of where I'm looking at. Maybe Eric sees something different because there's no teeth in it. It's the same thing you got right now.
To Mr. Long's point, this is prime ground for a policy, regardless of how it's applied in current situations.
That's
You're
fair.
gonna need a policy created
That's
on how
fair.
to deal with the interim positions.
That's fair.
That being said, because you've got two different positions going on right now from what I see. We've got, is it EMS and IT?
Yeah.
We've already made a determination on IT not to pay him the full position pay, because there was a resolution to that effect, was there not?
They didn't speak, so that he's being paid the full.
But, so we're already not applying stuff the same, so.
And that's fair. Do you think that comes through budget, or do you think that a policy would come?
Oh.
But my argument is like, I'm just acknowledging the
It would
swirl.
be a legislative
That's what I
start,
thought.
yes.
But was he named interim?
Which one?
IT.
IT, yes.
Yes.
And then he's being paid what's in the budget, because here's the way I look at it.
And then we also had one for the law director, right?
You've got the.
Right.
We paid him. So we've been totally inconsistent. I agree to your point.
As far as the way I look at the payment, that's what I was asked about. Two things happens here. If the mayor's over the department, and you have a department head, and it's appropriated within that appropriate line item, I can't really refuse it. Honestly, I don't think the commission can have me to refuse if it's within their budget. I think where the commission does have the control is what's appropriated to the line item. So in other words, if they disagree with the appointment, then they can basically come before action in the next year's budget and remove or decrease the line item, which would be a director. That's what I see. I don't see anywhere I can stop if the mayor puts a certain amount to pay the interim IT director and it's within the budget, I don't think I can do a whole lot, but the commission can. That's where I'm looking at.
I think.
And then you have a constant change in the budget line
Well,
as
and the
these
question is,
situations arise.
well, my thing is I've heard that there's a lot of argument if there's a budget line and you've taken action, it's really hard to adjust during the year. But, for instance, you're talking an appointment, if it holds over, you're gonna go across budget years, that's your,
You could have one that says we will fund
Won't
an
fund it
interim
next
for
year.
90 days.
or you won't fund it in the next budget year.
Well, I mean, just as a policy, right? But Mr. Wright, I know you want to.
I think that's where you're gonna get into the argument, that's something Erica's gonna have to look, if it's already budgeted for that fiscal year, they've told the person they're getting the pay and it's been acted upon.
No, I'm tracking.
I think it's really gonna be more like the next fiscal year when you start.
I'm tracking it.
I agree with that.
That's your
I think
strongest
we all
argument.
agree on that. This is to be implemented.
Correct.
At a
Effective
I'm
future
just
date.
saying, well.
Yes.
So basically, if
Right,
there's
you
a,
can-
if there's an appointment going on for 6 months, when the next fiscal year comes, if it's not dealt with, then the line item can be adjusted to
That's
deal
right.
with it. That's the only way I think it can be dealt with. I don't think it can be otherwise.
You're getting the look.
I think there's a lack of authority otherwise for me or for the commission, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Eric disagrees.
We'll let Mr. Hyde speak on this.
Getting the look.
First of all, I learned at the Board of Education, for the number of years I was there, about 12, that you could not make a policy for a specific situation that has occurred. It needs to be a general policy that everything will fit into. And I'm hearing some things here at the table that are a little bit wrong. I don't think legally that you could say we're going to cease to fund an interim position after a certain period of time. I'm not the lawyer, but I think that would be the case. In a case where, and let's just take, and I apologize to Chief Potts for making him an example here, but let's just say Chief Potts, for example, is appointed by the mayor, who has the authority, according to CTAS, to appoint the EMS director. If he has the authority to appoint the EMS director, I don't see how we could come back and say, well, after 3 months, though, we're not going to fund him. Nowhere in the law does it say that. It says he can appoint, we confirm. Now, what I'm hearing here is that if we vote him down, that's it, he's out. No, that's not it. I don't think. If he's appointed interim and we don't confirm, he could stay there as interim, I think, as long as the mayor appoints him. He could appoint him again as the interim director. That's my feeling about it. However, on the other hand, I think that the commission should have the authority to say, okay, and this is for someone like Chief Potts' protection or the county's protection. I think that if we vote down an interim director and he is brought back, I think the commission could have the authority to say that after a certain period of time, there will be a 10% less in salary or whatever you wanted to say, whatever, as an interim. That prevents some mayor, and not this mayor, any mayor, from doing this for an interim for 5 years, 10 years, or whatever. There is a penalty, okay, there's nothing we can do. It's a mayor's appointment, but what do you do for interims? A 10% less in salary as an interim. I think you could do that. I doubt you could vote him down and out, or anyone down and out that is the mayor's appointment. And just keep that in mind, but the policy probably needs to be worked on in legislative.
I agree with you, Mr. Hyde.
I agree with Chairman Hyde right up until and my only disagreement on the 10% reduction would be,
That's just an example.
No, I understand. My only disagreement with the reduction would be you might have a more difficult time finding somebody to agree to take that interim position if they know that that's in the cards going forward, especially when CTAS has, like the chairman stated, already kind of ruled on this.
I personally do not like the idea of a long-term. Interim means
That's
interim.
right.
And I don't like an idea of a long-term interim,
That's the thing. I think what we're trying to solve for here is to make sure, is to put some reasonable solution to solve for that problem. And I think, I don't want to shut down any discussion here, but I think that this is a legislative discussion. And
I'd like to just strike this going forward unless there's any dissent here, and have this handled in legislation.
Do we need to
Legislative.
refer it to legislative?
Yeah,
Okay.
and so we've got that note. All righty. So now we're at Gallatin Carpet. Mr. Klein, I'll
Yeah.
make a motion to do something with this.
This is something that we would need to do budget towards the end of the month, I
They're
think.
gonna have to bid the thing. If they're gonna do more carpet, we'd have to bid them. You may just wanna look on the 23rd, add them into next year's budget.
Well, I believe we've already contracted for the upstairs.
We have, and if you wanna do the downstairs, what I would do is I'd appropriate, since I think it's a little smaller area.
It is.
I would appropriate the same amount, up to 75, and let's do the bid process and get it started, if that's what you wanna do. I think we have it in capital to be able to
Yeah,
do that.
the ripples are bad enough that we could get sued
Okay.
for
So
a
do we-
trip.
Do we want to make an appropriation here, or we just want to put it into the budget?
We're running out of time on this budget.
That's why I think I just wanna put it and
No,
discuss
you
it
can- you
next
can
on
do
the
the
23rd.
appropriation.
Yeah.
Put it on
Put it on the 23rd.
Okay.
Then we got,
Yeah,
that work?
let's do that.
He's gonna have to rebid it
Do I
anyway.
need to make a
Yeah, it's
motion
gonna
for
have to
that?
up a bit.
No.
Okay.
He's got it.
Because we can't-
You do need to make another motion, though. Somebody does.
Motion adjourned.
All right.
Hey, can you make an announcement about that last meeting?
Oh, yes, one announcement real quick, and thank you for that. Financial management is canceled for today, if anybody was here to wait on that. Thank y'all.
Commissioner Hyde, what I was saying was, is basically you guys authority or